Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Pinkerton, and welcome to today's Bias Bash. The subject is government transparency, especially from the Obama administration. On Tuesday, July 8th, a group called the Society of Professional Journalists, which is a well-known association of journalists, and several dozen other groups, including such well-known organizations as the National Newspaper Association and the Investigative and Reporters and Editors Group, IRE, wrote a joint letter to President Obama complaining about the lack of transparency on disclosure issues from the Obama administration. This is something that's coming up as a major theme for years now. Bob Schieffer, CBS, said recently that this is the least transparent administration he's ever seen in the 40 years he's been covering Washington. So it's become sort of an issue, at least in some circles. And so the Society of Professional Journalists wrote a letter which includes in part this paragraph. The stifling of free expression is happening despite your pledges to the president now on your first day in office to bring, quote, a new era of openness, close quote, to the federal government, and the subsequent executive orders and directives which were supposed to bring such openness about. Of course, those have not happened. That's the point of the letter. It's a two-page letter. You can find it at the Society of Professional Journalists webpage, and decide for yourself whether or not you agree. But here's what's interesting. What's interesting is that the lack of coverage that this letter has received. I went to Google News and clicked in and typed in Society of Professional Journalists to see who picked up on this story, and Newsmax had picked it up, and Newsbusters had picked it up, and the Washington Times had picked it up, and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram had picked it up, Mediaite had picked it up, but I couldn't find it anywhere in the Washington Post, the New York Times, or the other major outlets of the mainstream media. So again, here's an interesting case of a legitimate, not conservative group, the Society of Professional Journalists, that's been around since 1909 as a journalistic trade association, complaining about the lack of transparency from the administration, and the mainstream media, which allegedly or supposedly or self-declaredly are the guardians of free speech and free press and seeking truth to power and everything else, aren't covering it. I can only imagine that if the same letter had gone to, for example, Richard Nixon or George W. Bush or Ronald Reagan or George H.W. Bush, the mainstream media would have been all over it. Instead, crickets. So that's the Bias Bash. Take a look at the Society of Professional Journalism letter on transparency. Decide for yourself if it's an important issue, and then decide for yourself why it is that the mainstream media aren't interested. That's an example of the kind of criticism I think the mainstream media need. If you want to see more of this, please tune in on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, then repeating at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Howard Kurtz's Media Buzz. It's a terrific show offering lots of discussion and commentary on the media and media bias. I'm Jim Pinkerton, and thanks again for watching today's Bias Bash.